Hi, this is Rick for EDU Mobile. I wanted to talk a bit today about the organization of the iOS system and how it is organized into layers containing frameworks. So let's get started with this. iOS itself is a layered set of services. At the bottom, right next to the hardware, we have the core OS layer, which communicates with the hardware, and it has drivers and things like that. And then on top of that, we have core services. And then built on top of core services, we have the media layer, audio, visual, or audio and video and graphics, let's say. And then the CocoaTouch layer, which is really where our applications, for the most part, integrate with iOS, is at this fourth layer. So let's look at each one of these layers in a little bit of detail. First of all, the core OS layer, as I mentioned, is the low-level hardware interface. Applications don't directly talk to hardware. They go through the iOS system, and then they go through the core OS layer to talk to the hardware. The frameworks in all other layers are built up on top of the frameworks in core OS. So we have some important frameworks here. We have the Accelerate framework, which deals with kind of low-level math and digital signal processing, some matrix calculations, linear algebra calculations, and primarily for image processing. But also the hardware is dealing a lot with these vector and matrix calculations, linear algebra kind of calculations for our graphics and image processing and things like that. We also have the core Bluetooth framework and the external accessory framework. These are exactly what they sound like. The security frameworks are built on this core OS right on the hardware. And then, of course, we have the system, which is the kernel, the hardware drivers, the networking system, the file system, input-output, and so forth. The underlying Unix system calls are located right here in core OS. By the way, iOS is based on the Mach core, so that you know that. When you see tooltip things in Xcode, when you start to type a class name with an M, you'll start to see Mach core, things like that. And these belong to the core OS layer. Next up, we have the core services layer. This provides interfaces between the core OS layer and our applications. This contains many frameworks. Probably most of the frameworks that you will see in the framework listings are located here in core services. The most important frameworks in core services, though, are Core Foundation, which is the basic data management and service features for all applications. And then Foundation is an ObjectiveC wrapper of, it contains ObjectiveC wrappers of all of these core foundation classes. Core Data is a system for managing the model of a model view controller app. We may or may not use core data in our application. It depends on how our model is built, how much data is being managed by our application. And also, things like accounts and address books and telephony, the telephone itself, event kit, core media layer, core motion, things like that are all right here in our core services layer. Next, we have the media layer, and this is very large, but it really only deals with three things. It deals with graphics, audio, and video. So under graphics, we have a lot of foundation, or a lot of frameworks. UIKit is very large. It's drawing in images and paths, animating view content, and things like that. And this is the graphics portion of UIKit. The actual UIKit interface, all of those classes, sit at the CocoaTouch layer, but we'll talk about that just in a minute. But the graphics portion of UIKit graphics, is located here in the media layer. Core graphics is also called Quartz, or Quartz. There's a Quartz core framework that you'll see, but there's a core graphics framework as well. And we kind of lump all those things together and call them Quartz. This is a 2D vector rendering and image-based rendering library framework. Core animation is the underlying UIKit animation foundational technology. We can use this directly for even greater control of our animation. And then finally, OpenGLES. OpenGLES 1, 2, and now 3, version 3, are all supported. And then also there's a foundation or framework called GLKit as well in iOS. And this is a 2D and 3D animation and rendering technology that is an industry standard across multiple platforms. So ES in the OpenGLES is the mobile version of OpenGL. Audio and video is also, as I said, in the media layer. This contains the media player, which is the highest level thing that we access. And we usually, if we can get away with it, for recording, for just playback of audio tracks and video tracks and playlists, we will use media player. AV Foundation exists. This is the underlying framework for recording and playback of audio and video. OpenEL, of course, is our industry standard platform that we often see used in games. Core Audio is the lowest level of audio interface, and this offers the greatest control over recording and playback. But this is an advanced user interface. This is a fairly difficult thing to deal with. If we need the capabilities of Core Audio, we can certainly use it. But for the most part, we stick with AV Foundation and the media player. And then finally, Core Media is the lowest level. This is where the data types and the interfaces are defined that are going to be used in all of the above audio and video frameworks. And very rarely do we need to go to the Core Media framework. We'll use Core Audio, but we'll use it through the media player and AV Foundation. CocoaTouch is the final layer and the highest level layer of frameworks for building applications. And this is the main developer interface when a developer is building an app, mainly dealing with CocoaTouch. Also the foundation frameworks, of course, for our data classes, but CocoaTouch is where we go to for the functionality of an application. It contains things like multitasking and notifications and local notifications and things like that, but it also is our main interface to UIKit, User Interface Kit. These are the touch and the motion events that we're familiar with, the views and the view controllers, the storyboards and the nib files. Everything that a user sees and interacts with is inside UIKit. Also, we have the basic application infrastructure. This is the main application, something called UI application, the app delegate that we've already seen and talked about a little bit. We'll talk about some more. And then the main run loop is also located right here in UIKit. And there's a whole lot more. Probably 90% of what we talk about in this course is UIKit or UIKit related. So we're dealing with this. So most importantly, a developer, when developing an app, should look in the CocoaTouch layer and particularly in UIKit for the classes that meet the needs of their design. And then we can look in Core Foundation, and we can look in Foundation, and we can look in media frameworks if we need audio and video. And we can look at some of the graphics frameworks if we need 2D animation or things like that. But for the most part, we'll be looking in the CocoaTouch layer and building apps from here. Thank you very much.